Kira, after 15 years with TechVantage, listened as Marjorie Thompson announced the restructuring of her position. Marjorie's voice carried a barely concealed note of satisfaction as she sat across from Kira in the small conference room, flanked by Denise from HR, both wearing carefully crafted expressions of corporate regret. "The company is moving in a new direction," Marjorie stated. Denise added, sliding a manila folder across the table, "Your contributions have been valuable, but we're consolidating the research division under the product development team." Kira nodded thoughtfully and accepted the folder without opening it. Inside would be the standard severance package, 2 weeks for every year of service, continued health coverage for 3 months, and a list of career counseling resources she would never use. "I completely understand," she replied in a steady voice. "These decisions are never easy." Relief flashed across their faces. They had clearly expected tears, protests, or anger. After all, here was a 55-year-old woman being pushed out of the tech industry, where youth was prized above experience. What they didn't know was that Kira had anticipated this moment for weeks, ever since a misdirected email thread had appeared in her inbox the previous month. "We'd like you to clean out your desk by Friday," Marjorie continued, gaining confidence from Kira's apparent acceptance. "We'll need your key card, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be notified this afternoon." Her team, 6 brilliant engineers she had personally recruited and mentored over the years, the same team that had helped her develop the distributed processing algorithm powering TechVantage's flagship product, AccountSphere, accounting software used by over 40% of Fortune 500 companies, would soon learn of their fate. Rising from her chair, Kira asked, "Is there anything else?" Their exchanged glances betrayed their surprise at her composure. Marjorie recovered first. "That's all for now. Thank you for making this professional." As Kira walked back to her office, she passed the glass-walled conference room where the executive team was meeting. Through the transparent barrier, she could see CEO Victor Lawson gesturing animatedly at a PowerPoint presentation titled Q3 Revenue Projections, the same Victor Lawson who had taken credit for her algorithm at last year's industry conference, referring to her only as one of the research team members. Kira closed her office door and pulled out her personal phone, sending a single text message, "It's happening. Friday is my last day." The response came immediately, "Perfect timing. Contracts are ready, dinner tonight to finalize details." She smiled as she looked at the calendar on her desk. Today was Wednesday. Friday, she would leave TechVantage for the last time, and Monday would be fascinating. That evening, she met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, an upscale restaurant far from TechVantage's headquarters. As the CEO of Precision Systems, TechVantage's largest competitor, Greg understood the value of discretion. He had reserved a private dining alcove in the back, shielded from curious eyes by elegant Japanese screens. "They actually did it," Greg said as they ordered. His voice was a mix of disbelief and excitement as he looked across the table. The restaurant's soft background music and the gentle clink of cutlery seemed far removed from the dramatic corporate shifts unfolding in their professional lives. "I suspected they might, but to cut the very person who developed their core technology, Victor never truly understood what I actually created." Kira took a slow sip of her water, her gaze fixed on the table as she considered the magnitude of the moment. "I'm more concerned about my team," she admitted quietly. Her eyes, steady and focused, revealed a deep care for the 6 brilliant engineers who had stood by her side through years of innovation and struggle. "They don't deserve to be caught in the fallout of all this corporate maneuvering." Greg nodded in agreement, his expression softening. "Already addressed. We have positions for all 6 of them if they're interested, senior roles with significant raises. They deserve better than being tossed aside." The conversation continued amid the hum of quiet conversation around them, but Kira's thoughts were already racing ahead to what lay next. With calm determination, she signed the final page of the documents laid out before her. The paper held the terms she had already memorized: a 7-figure signing bonus, substantial equity in Precision Systems, and ongoing royalties from every product that used her algorithm. It was not just a contract, it was a declaration of her worth. With one elegant move, she had secured her future, protected her team, and ensured that her work would finally be recognized. "What do you think Victor's face will look like when he realizes what's happened?" Greg asked, unable to hide the satisfaction in his tone. His eyes twinkled as if imagining the moment of reckoning. Kira's response was immediate and unwavering. "I'm more concerned about my team," she repeated. "They don't deserve to be caught in the fallout. They worked hard, and their skills are priceless." Greg's smile deepened as he replied, "Our loss is their gain." That simple exchange held a universe of meaning, a shared understanding that sometimes, corporate changes can turn into opportunities for true recognition and justice. During the following days, Thursday and Friday passed in a blur. The routine of exit interviews, knowledge transfer meetings, and farewells felt almost surreal. Kira maintained her professional composure throughout, even as rumors began to swirl like wildfire throughout the company. In the hallways, administrative assistants gave her sympathetic glances. Junior developers, with hesitant voices, approached her asking for LinkedIn recommendations before she left. Every detail was documented meticulously, every project, every password, every process was noted down. She knew full well that TechVantage would soon discover just how thorough and careful she had been. Her comprehensive transition notes were not acts of kindness, they were cold, hard evidence that she had acted in good faith, while the company had not. On Friday afternoon, during her final exit interview, Denise from HR methodically reviewed the standard checklist. "You understand that any intellectual property developed during your employment remains the property of TechVantage?" Denise stated as she slid a non-disclosure agreement across the table with robotic efficiency. "Of course," Kira replied pleasantly, her tone calm and measured. "Anything developed within the scope of my employment using company resources during company time." She paused, emphasizing her point, although Denise was too absorbed in checking boxes to notice. "And I affirm that I have no copies of proprietary company information." With a sense of finality, Kira confirmed, "I have taken nothing that belongs to TechVantage." After all, the patent was hers, she had fought hard for that recognition, and now it was hers to keep. As she began packing the personal items from her desk, memories filled her mind. There were family photos that reminded her of warmer days, a collection of conference badges that marked 15 long years of industry events, and even the coffee mug her team had given her last Christmas, a small but meaningful token of their camaraderie. In the midst of her careful packing, Marjorie stopped by. Leaning casually against her doorframe, Marjorie said, "I just wanted to check that everything's clear for your departure." Marjorie's tone was soft, but it carried an undercurrent of resignation. Watching Kira place items into a cardboard box, Marjorie added, "You know, Kira, these restructuring decisions are never personal." Her voice was laced with a hint of forced sympathy, as if trying to mask the corporate coldness behind bureaucratic decisions. Kira replied simply, crystal clear, as she wrapped a small award she had received for her algorithm, a prize that now lay at the center of her future plans, carefully between layers of tissue paper. Marjorie continued, "TechVantage feels the company needs to move in a more youthful direction." Kira looked up and met her gaze directly. "I understand completely. Business is business," she said with a tone that was both respectful and firm. Her words made Marjorie pause for a brief moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face before she quickly dismissed it. What could a soon-to-be unemployed 55-year-old woman possibly do? "Will you be taking some time off?" Marjorie asked, her voice forced with artificial concern. "Actually, I already have something lined up. I start Monday," Kira replied, her words crisp and confident. A look of genuine surprise flashed across Marjorie's features. "That's fast. Anything interesting?" Kira smiled softly. "Very, it's a leadership position. I'm quite excited about it." Marjorie nodded absently, already shifting her thoughts to other matters, leaving Kira to her next steps. Soon after, Kira walked out of TechVantage's glass headquarters for the final time, keycard surrendered, personal belongings in tow. She paused, looking back at the building where she had spent 15 long years of her career. From her vantage point on the ground, she could see the executive conference room lit up for an evening meeting. It was likely a meeting to discuss how to redistribute her responsibilities among younger, less experienced, and significantly less expensive staff. Little did they know that, in less than 72 hours, that very room would be hosting an emergency crisis meeting instead. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. Kira dressed carefully in her new charcoal suit, a power outfit she had purchased specifically for this important day. At precisely 7:30 a.m., the Precision Systems town car arrived to take her to their headquarters, where she would begin her first day as Chief Innovation Officer. Greg had informed her that the press release announcing her new role would go live at 7 a.m. As she settled into her new corner office, with its impressive floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the bustling city below, industry newsletters were already picking up her story. The press release had been crafted with strategic precision. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm. Welcomes creator Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer. The release detailed her impressive background, emphasized her role as the sole inventor of the patented technology, and outlined how Precision Systems would integrate the algorithm into their next-generation products. Most importantly, it clearly stated that any company currently using the technology would now need to negotiate licensing agreements with Precision Systems moving forward. At precisely 9:15 a.m., her phone lit up with the first text from her former team at TechVantage. The message read, "Complete chaos here. What did you do?" It was from Miguel, her lead developer. A smile spread across her face as she quickly typed back, "Check your personal email." All 6 of them had offers waiting, a testament to the loyalty and talent that had once been stifled by TechVantage's outdated culture. Meanwhile, just 8 miles away at TechVantage headquarters, the scheduled Monday morning executive meeting was undergoing a dramatic transformation. According to Miguel's play-by-play updates throughout the morning, Victor had arrived at the office to find the company's general counsel and chief financial officer waiting at his door. Both Ash and Fade, the general counsel and CFO, respectively, had received the industry announcement simultaneously, setting off immediate alarms within the executive suite. By 9:30 a.m., what should have been a routine meeting had morphed into an emergency crisis session. Board members were calling in remotely, and the legal team was frantically reviewing Kira's employment contract and the documentation around the development of the algorithm. Every file with her name on it was being pulled in a desperate bid to understand where things had gone wrong. Miguel reported that someone had just wheeled in all the servers from the research division for the tech team to analyze, trying to salvage what they could from a situation that was spiraling out of control. Kira could picture the scene perfectly from her new vantage point. She imagined Victor pacing back and forth in the conference room, his face a mask of anxiety and disbelief. He was likely demanding explanations from Marjorie and the legal department, both of whom were scrambling to provide answers. Investors, now jittery and fearful of the uncertainty, were reacting immediately. TechVantage's stock was tumbling as the news spread like wildfire. It was a stark contrast to the calm and determination that now defined Kira's every move. In her new role, every decision was driven by purpose and respect for innovation. And as she sat in her corner office, watching the unfolding crisis on the news, she felt a profound sense of vindication. The future was hers to shape, and in that future, her team, her ideas, and her dedication would never again be taken for granted. At 10:45 a.m., she received an email from Victor himself, the desperation practically emanating from his screen. "Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss." She forwarded the email to Precision Systems' legal team without responding. By noon, the industry was buzzing with speculation. News outlets, tech blogs, and social media all lit up with chatter about the sudden shift. TechVantage's stock had dropped 7% since the market opened, while Precision Systems' share price enjoyed a brisk 12% increase. 3 technology journals had requested interviews with her about the strategic coup that had shaken the accounting software industry, and even independent analysts began weighing in on the implications of her move. In the midst of this whirlwind, Greg, a trusted colleague and friend, stopped by her office. "How are you feeling?" he asked, concern evident in his tone. Settling into her new role with a calm determination, Kira replied, 15 years of watching others take credit for my work, of being told I should be grateful just to have a seat at the table, and now finally, recognition. My new executive assistant just informed me that the development team is ready for me in the main conference room. Her words were simple and matter-of-fact, yet behind them lay the weight of years spent fighting to be heard. She paused briefly, then added, TechVantage's CEO has called 4 times in the last hour. Please let him know I'm in meetings all day. There was no trace of regret or anger in her voice, only quiet resolve. I'll have our legal team reach out to discuss licensing options later this week, she assured him calmly, her tone both professional and unwavering. As she walked toward her first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems, her phone buzzed with another update from Miguel, her former lead developer. Board just called an emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When can we start? By Tuesday morning. Kira's heart swelled with a mix of relief and determination. She had long prepared for this moment, not just for herself, but also for the brilliant team that had stood by her through years of underappreciation. The full impact of her departure was becoming clear to everyone at TechVantage. Their flagship product, AccountSphere, relied entirely on her algorithm to process the massive data sets that had given them an edge over competitors. Without the licensing rights to her patent, they faced 2 equally unpalatable options: either negotiate with Precision Systems on terms that would drain their profits or undertake the arduous task of rebuilding their core technology from scratch, a process that would take years and cost millions in development. Later that morning, Victor had called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m. Meanwhile, Miguel texted that it was his last day at TechVantage. He and the rest of her former team would be starting at Precision Systems next Monday. Rumor had it that TechVantage was even considering legal action to challenge her ownership of the algorithm. Kira forwarded Miguel's message to Precision Systems' legal department, whose response was immediate and confident. Let them try. Your documentation is impeccable, development logs, timestamps, personal equipment usage, all clearly established. We've prepared for this scenario. This moment felt like a turning point. At Precision Systems, everything was different. Here, her expertise and experience were seen as assets, not liabilities. The respect she received in meetings was a stark contrast to her final years at TechVantage, where her ideas were often repackaged by male colleagues and presented as their own. In this new environment, her voice carried weight, and her years of hard work were finally being acknowledged. Greg later updated her that early testing of the new integration showed a 51% performance boost, an improvement even better than anyone had predicted. Kira admitted with a small smile, I had several refinements I never shared with TechVantage. Once I discovered they were planning to eliminate my position, I saw no reason to give them my best work. She continued, our loss, their gain, to which Greg replied with a satisfied smile that said more than words ever could. As the day progressed, a licensing inquiry arrived, not from TechVantage, but from Data Flow Systems, a company concerned about the technology being caught in the crossfire. At 3:30 p.m., Miguel sent a detailed account of Victor's all-hands meeting. The CEO had tried to project confidence, assuring staff that TechVantage would vigorously defend its proprietary technology. However, the tension in the room was palpable. Several employees had already updated their LinkedIn profiles, sensing the instability of their company. Marjorie, who had once exuded control, now looked as though she might faint when someone directly asked if they had failed to secure the patent. According to Miguel, Victor cut the question period short as soon as the issue was raised. By Wednesday, the fallout in the industry had intensified. 2 major clients had contacted Precision Systems, expressing concern about continuing with AccountSphere under TechVantage, worried about the company's ability to maintain the product without the algorithm's creator at the helm. Precision Systems stock rose another 8% during this time, while TechVantage's continued its steady decline. In the midst of the chaos, Kira received a call from Denise in HR, the same woman who had slid her severance package across the table just days earlier. Kira, Denise began carefully and professionally, I'm calling to discuss the situation with your patent. We believe there may have been a misunderstanding about ownership rights. Kira listened intently, her mind already sifting through the details she had documented over the years. I don't think there's any misunderstanding, she replied calmly. My employment agreement clearly states that intellectual property developed on my own time using my own resources remains mine. The patent documentation confirms exactly that. Denise hesitated for a moment before continuing. Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options. Any discussions would need to go through Precision Systems' legal department. Kira's response was steady. I'm sure they'd be happy to set up a meeting to discuss licensing terms. Her words were firm, and the silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. That afternoon marked another milestone in her new chapter. Kira led her first formal presentation to Precision Systems' board of directors. The room was filled with attentive faces as she outlined the technology roadmap with her algorithm at its center. Standing confidently at the head of the table, in stark contrast to the experiences she'd had at TechVantage, she felt a surge of pride. After the meeting, as she discussed the session with Anita, one of her former team members from TechVantage who had joined her new company, Anita commented, "This is how development meetings should be." Kira smiled and responded, "That's the difference between being valued and being seen as replaceable." Later that afternoon, her assistant appeared at the door with a slight hesitation in her voice. "Dr. Jennings, the development team is ready for you in the main conference room." Just then, her phone buzzed again with another reminder. TechVantage's CEO has called 4 times in the last hour. "Please let him know I'm in meetings all day," Kira reiterated in a calm and measured tone. "I'll have our legal team reach out to discuss licensing options later this week." By Friday, just 1 week after she had walked out of TechVantage for the last time, the full crisis at TechVantage had come to a head. Their stock had fallen 23% from Monday's opening bell, which led to a flurry of concerned calls from major investors. Industry analysts began publishing speculative pieces with headlines like, "Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis?" and "How one strategic blunder may cost a tech giant everything." Through her many industry contacts, Kira learned that Victor had finally acknowledged the severity of the situation to the board. They were forced to accept that TechVantage would need to either license her groundbreaking algorithm from Precision Systems at rates that would be devastating to their profits or start over by rebuilding Account Sphere from scratch, a process that would take years and require a vast investment in new research and development. In a Friday video call, Miguel added, "Victor's claiming they can recreate the functionality in 6 months." Kira couldn't help but laugh softly. "The original algorithm took me 3 years to perfect, and that was with intimate knowledge of the problem space," she remarked, her tone a blend of amusement and disbelief. Miguel agreed, "Nobody's believing that timeline, especially after your team posted their resignation letters simultaneously. The knowledge drain is massive." That afternoon, TechVantage's attorneys finally reached out to Precision Systems to open a dialogue about potential licensing arrangements. The legal team, confident in the strength of Kira's documentation, responded with terms that were technically fair but strategically painful, demanding 3 times the standard industry licensing rate, plus a public acknowledgement of Kira's role as the technology inventor. Greg predicted that TechVantage would balk at the acknowledgement more than the steep cost. Kira replied, "Every day they spend trying to replicate my work is another day we extend our lead in the market." Her words were simple, yet carried the weight of years of suppressed talent finally finding its rightful place. 10 days after her unceremonious dismissal, on the following Monday morning, Kira led the first meeting with her newly assembled innovation team, which included Miguel and the other 5 engineers from TechVantage. The energy in the room was electric as they mapped out the next evolution of her algorithm. There was a palpable sense of excitement and determination, as if everyone understood that they were on the brink of something great. "This is how development meetings should be," Anita, one of her former team members, commented with a bright smile. Kira returned the smile and said, "Your expertise is finally recognized. We are here to create something extraordinary together." In that moment, she felt that every struggle, every overlooked idea, had led her to this new beginning, a place where her talent and hard work were celebrated. Later that day, as the afternoon light softened through the office windows, news broke that TechVantage's board had announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson was stepping down immediately. The news spread quickly throughout the industry. Within hours, publications reported that the board had lost confidence in his leadership following the patent oversight that had threatened the company's flagship product. Marjorie Thompson, along with the head of legal responsible for securing the patent, was also shown the door. That evening, as Kira was preparing to leave the office, she received an unexpected email from Richard Donovan, TechVantage's newly appointed interim CEO. Unlike Victor's desperate message from the previous week, Donovan's email was straightforward and respectful. Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new position. I've been brought in to help TechVantage navigate the current situation. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We're prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make appropriate amends for the oversights of previous management. Would you be available to meet next week? Kira forwarded the email to Greg with a brief note, Phase 1 complete. His quick reply read, beautifully executed. The board is celebrating your first major victory for Precision Systems. Looks like TechVantage is finally learning an expensive lesson about valuing innovation. 3 months after her departure from TechVantage, Kira found herself on a stage at the National Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address. The large auditorium was filled with industry leaders, technology journalists, and aspiring developers, many of whom knew her story and admired her courage. The conference organizer stepped up to the microphone and announced, "Please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and creator of the distributed processing algorithm that has revolutionized data handling across multiple industries." The applause was substantial as Kira approached the podium. In simple, clear language, she began, "What a difference a few months can make. Last year, I attended this same conference as part of the TechVantage delegation, sitting in the back while Victor gave a presentation about his company's innovations. Today, I want to talk about innovation, ownership, and the importance of properly valuing intellectual contributions, regardless of where they come from." Her presentation was a blend of technical explanation and heartfelt personal experience. She described the challenges of having her ideas overlooked and the deep satisfaction of finally being recognized for her work. She emphasized that companies should protect and nurture their innovators instead of treating them as replaceable parts of a machine. As she spoke, her language was direct and simple, ensuring that everyone, from industry veterans to newcomers, could understand the message. After her speech, during the reception, several young women engineers approached her, seeking advice and mentorship. One of them, barely 30 years old, shyly confessed, "Your story changed how I document my work. I started keeping detailed logs of my development process on personal time." "Smart," Kira replied warmly. "Your innovations deserve protection, and documenting your work is the first step toward owning your contributions." That evening, as Kira checked her phone, an industry news alert popped up. TechVantage had finally announced a licensing agreement with Precision Systems, acknowledging her by name as the algorithm's creator. Although their stock had stabilized somewhat, it was at a significantly lower valuation than before her departure, a clear sign of the long-term impact of her decision. 1 year to the day after being told to clean out her desk, Kira sat in her spacious office at Precision Systems, reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under her leadership, the company had released 3 groundbreaking products built on her algorithm, capturing significant market share from TechVantage and other competitors. The progress was not just measured in numbers, it was reflected in the renewed energy of the teams, the successful product launches, and the tangible impact on the industry. A knock at her door interrupted her reflection. It was Greg, holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, placing the glasses on her desk. "The board asked me to share this news with you personally before the public announcement. Precision Systems has officially surpassed TechVantage in market valuation for the first time in company history." Kira smiled, feeling not the triumph of victory but a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing that her hard work and perseverance had finally paid off. "That's what happens when you value innovation properly," she replied. As Greg poured the champagne, her assistant delivered a sleek envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at Women in Technology's annual leadership summit on the topic Owning Your Intellectual Value, How Proper Documentation Changed an Industry. It was a moment of profound recognition, one that affirmed not only her technical achievements but also her role as a mentor and leader for others in the industry. Greg glanced at the invitation and remarked, "You know, the story about the executive who didn't recognize what she had until it was gone has become a cautionary tale in corporate boardrooms." His tone was light, yet it carried the weight of a hard-earned lesson. Richard Donovan, who had remained as TechVantage's CEO after the crisis, had since implemented sweeping changes in how the company recognized and rewarded innovation. Their new policies on intellectual property protection and inventor recognition were reportedly modeled after the program you established at Precision Systems. It was clear that your journey had not only transformed your own life, but was also changing the industry for the better. It was never about revenge, Kira said, raising her glass in a toast. It was about recognition, about showing the industry that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit. Greg agreed, clinking his glass against hers. As the afternoon sun streamed through the office windows, Kira reflected on her journey. At 56, she had finally found what had eluded her throughout her career, not just success, but true acknowledgement. Her name was now permanently attached to the algorithm that had changed an industry, exactly where it belonged. In that moment, Kira realized that every setback had prepared her for this day. Her clear vision, steady determination, and refusal to settle for being just another cog in the machine had reshaped her destiny. The challenges she faced were not just personal trials, they were lessons that would inspire others to demand recognition and to fight for the value of their contributions. And as she looked forward to mentoring the next generation of innovators, she knew that her story was just one chapter in a larger narrative about the power of perseverance and the importance of owning one's intellectual value.